Hey everyone, Calvin here. In the past 2 weeks, I've been quite busy and couldn't upload videos as frequent as I used to. It's partially because I went to Calgary for a few days to learn about the city, weather, and people there, as well as the real estate market. We have been talking about moving to Calgary for a while and wanted to see it before actually deciding to do so. So we went there, and here's what we learned from our trip to Calgary. We are currently living in Toronto, which is one of the bloodiest, most expensive city, not only in this country but also in the world. And we prefer to live in an affordable city where we can easily buy a decent home with yard and garage without a heavy financial burden. For example, if you are able to buy a decent house in Calgary at a half of the price used to buy a condo in Toronto while earning comparable income, why should we squeeze in this overpopulated mega city? The large size of the city can't really justify why we should stay. I personally think that it is personal finance, safety, education, and employment that should be considered most when it comes to where to stay and live. At least for us, not so much about the size of the city. Because we want to raise a family and life is much more than a home, and we want our future kids to have a lot of outdoor activities, which are costly, as well as happy and healthy lives. Plus, we want to buy a second and a third real estate property for rental purposes in order to create extra income streams. So we need a plan where the cost of the home should be a lot less than what we can afford, and very likely less than 50% of that. And it's a 10, even 20-year plan where we need to consider more than a dozen factors. And no need to be unhappy about it. And we should be glad that we're looking into the future and proactively considering all options and trying to make the best decision. That's the situation we're in and made us consider moving to Calgary. The below is a summary of what we learned from our trip to the city. The city is relatively smaller but much cleaner than Toronto. Calgary is definitely smaller, but it's expanding to its north and south. Right now, it would take about 40 minutes by car to reach the northernmost point of the city from the southernmost point. In Toronto, driving for that long from the city center, you wouldn't be able to get to the edge of the city. We are currently living in downtown Toronto, and we can see how crowded it is, especially around Yonge and Dundas, Eaton Center. We can see a lot of trash here and there on the street. You don't really notice if you are living here for a while, but you would if you go to Calgary. You would realize how clean Calgary compared to Toronto. We went there and instantly noticed cleanness of the city. In Toronto, you'll see a lot of beggars and homeless people on the street, especially in the downtown area. But in Calgary, you rarely see these kinds of people on the street. Perhaps it's an indication that Toronto has more severe drug problems. To me, Toronto is the Canadian version of New York. Currently, New York probably is the future version of Toronto, and currently Calgary is a past version of Toronto. Public transportation in Calgary is not as convenient as in Toronto. Most people leave their drive because road conditions are good as long as the weather permits. Buses are small and less frequent. It actually reminded me of my hometown city, a small but vibrant city. For many times, we had to wait 10 to 15 minutes to get on a bus. A lot of them come about every 30 minutes. If you are visiting the city for a few days and you would like to use its public transportation, then you can download an app called Calgary Transit, through which you can buy bus tickets. One-time adult ticket right now is $3.60. And an adult daily pass right now is $11.25. I think that's a bit expensive. There are C-train, which are new subways spanning most parts of the city. To get on and get off a C-train, you have to press a button on the door. That is inconvenient, especially during this pandemic time. You have to sanitize your hands each time after you're pressing the button. Interestingly, a lot of people were not wearing masks, even sitting in a public transport. The city is expanding in south and north. New communities have been built and are being built in the south and north parts of the city. Most homes in these areas were built around 2018, which is when the last real estate crash happened. You can find luxury houses as well as economy homes, like semi-detached townhouses and condos. The road conditions are not much different from ones in Toronto. Definitely not as bad as described by some people on Quora. So you can definitely drive to most places in the city easily. There's not much congestion even during the peak hours. University of Calgary is a very quiet place to study and do research. If that's what you're looking for, you can try to find a home in the northwestern region of the city, which is where the school's main campus is located and is a higher ground compared to southeast, east, and northeast. The school campus is fairly large and beautiful. Beside this one, there's another one in the downtown region of the city where its business school and continuing education is located. Its financial district is as flourishing as one in Toronto, although there might be less number of high-rises in the financial district. Most Canadian banks and international companies have offices in its downtown, especially those one focused on oil, gas, and mining. The city is sunny and dry. Plus, due to frequent Chinook winds, it is fairly warmer than Toronto. Toronto is always wet and windy. Sometimes Toronto gets strong winds and makes it very frigid. I would say you would definitely feel warmer in Calgary even if the outside temperature is exactly the same in the both cities. As a result, we needed to drink a lot of water and use lip balm. Interestingly, some food in Calgary is more expensive compared to Toronto, such as fruits and vegetables. And most restaurant food in Calgary does not taste as good as one in Toronto. We think the best ramen place in downtown Calgary is Wakado, but it's still not as good as Yokokushai in Toronto. We went to a Chinese restaurant on the day we arrived, and we had to return one of the dishes we have ordered because it did not taste well. We're probably very sensitive to taste. Last but not least, real estate is booming and hot. A lot of homes were listed and sold within 1 to 3 days, especially those detached and semi-detached homes. Unless the home has critical issues such as right next to a highway or heavily damaged or too far away from the city center. The market is crazy hot right now, and that's what almost every agency I spoke to says. Some say that the price will continue to go up, whereas others say that it will go down once the interest rate reaches a certain level. But I personally think that the price rise will become slower as the interest rate reaches a certain level. But it will definitely not drop by 20 to 40%, which I think is the amount of bubble within the market right now. It's partially because of the immigration policies. Can you imagine that? Canada is targeting to take in more than 400,000 immigrants this year, 2020, and in each of the following 3 years. The total of those amount is the population of Calgary, 1.6 million. That means the number of immigrants going into Canada in the next 4 years is the size of a city. Keep in mind that Calgary is not a small city. It is one of the largest cities in the country. I don't know how the country would be able to help these people find decent jobs. Otherwise, with this amount of new people in the country, the crime rate can easily go up. And I think its impact on the housing market is dramatic and will keep the housing market as high as it is right now. Before his re-election, Justin Trudeau said he'll take action and make homes more affordable. But I haven't heard anything about decreasing the home prices after he got elected last year. For people who are trying to buy a home, it's very frustrating to see the housing prices are going up and up, while people who own multiple homes are happier and happier seeing the same news every day. If more people are going into this country and not comparable amount of land is opened up for residential areas and not comparable amount of homes are built, the price will definitely go up, and only those who already have homes will benefit. That's a summary of observations we made during our trip to Calgary. It is informative and fruitful, although we haven't really decided where to go in our next move. To me, doing the right decision is critical, so we are taking our time and doing our research. Anyway, that's all I wanted to discuss today, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the like button below and smash the subscribe button if you haven't. And as always, I'll see you next time.